Have you ever wondered what it was like to live in a time of incredible change, where steam trains roared across the countryside and sprawling cities grew almost overnight? A time of grand balls and rigid social rules, but also of deep poverty and groundbreaking ideas. Welcome to the Victorian Age, a period that lasted from 1837 to 1901 and shaped the world we live in today. It's an era that wasn't just about Queen Victoria on the throne. It was about a revolution in industry, science, and, most importantly for us, in literature. This was when literature truly met society head-on, holding up a mirror to the best and worst of humanity. So, what made Victorian literature so special? In a word, realism. For the first time, writers weren't just telling epic tales of heroes and mythical beasts. They were looking out their windows, walking the grimy streets of London, and writing about what they saw. They tackled the big social problems of their day. The brutal conditions in factories and workhouses, the huge gap between the rich and the poor, the changing role of women, and the clash between religious faith and new scientific discoveries like Darwin's theory of evolution. It was raw, it was real, and it was revolutionary. And how did these stories reach the people? Through the rise of the novel. Before the Victorians, novels were seen as a bit frivolous, but during this era, they became the dominant form of entertainment and social commentary. A big reason for this was serial publication. Imagine waiting eagerly each month, not for the next episode of your favorite show, but for the next chapter of a thrilling story published in a magazine. This made novels affordable and accessible to a growing middle-class readership. It also changed how authors wrote. They had to keep their readers hooked, ending each installment on a cliffhanger to make sure people bought the next issue. It was the 19th century version of binge. Now, you can't talk about Victorian literature without talking about the literary giant, Charles Dickens. Dickens wasn't just a writer, he was a social phenomenon. His stories painted an unforgettable picture of Victorian London, from the bustling, cheerful streets to the dark, dangerous alleyways. Think of Oliver Twist and the heart-wrenching plea, "Please, sir, I want some more." That single line exposed the cruelty of the workhouse system to a massive audience. In A Christmas Carol, he gave us Ebenezer Scrooge, a character whose transformation became a timeless story of redemption and a powerful critique of greed. Dickens had this incredible ability to create characters who felt completely real, from the virtuous to the villainous, and he used his immense popularity to push for social reform. He wasn't just entertaining people, he was changing their hearts and minds. But Dickens was far from the only star in the Victorian literary sky. Let's talk about the Brontë sisters, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne. Writing from a secluded parsonage, they produced some of the most passionate and powerful novels ever written. Charlotte Brontë, as Jane Eyre, gave us a new kind of heroine, one who was plain, intelligent, and fiercely independent, demanding respect and love on her own terms. It challenged all the conventions of what a woman's story could be. Then there's Emily Brontë's Wuthering Heights, a wild, gothic tale of obsessive love and revenge set on the desolate moors. It was so dark and strange that it shocked contemporary readers, but its raw emotional power is undeniable. And Anne Brontë, often overshadowed by her sisters, wrote The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, a radical novel for its time that tackled issues of alcoholism and marital abuse with stunning honesty. And we can't forget the brilliant mind of Mary Ann Evans, who wrote under the male pseudonym George Eliot to ensure her work was taken seriously. Eliot was a true intellectual, and her novels are known for their psychological depth and moral seriousness. In Middlemarch, often hailed as one of the greatest novels in English, she explores the lives of a whole town, weaving together stories of ambition, failed ideals, love, and disillusionment. She wasn't just telling a story. She was dissecting an entire society, looking at the complex web of relationships and choices that shape human lives. Eliot's realism was a quiet, profound kind that got right to the core of what it means to be human. The poetry of the era was just as vibrant and varied. On one hand, you have Alfred, Lord Tennyson, the poet laureate. His work often reflects the grand, optimistic, and sometimes anxious spirit of the age. Poems like Ulysses capture the Victorian drive for exploration and knowledge, that relentless desire to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. He also wrote deeply personal and moving poems, like In Memoriam, AHH, a long elegy processing his grief and grappling with questions of faith and doubt in a changing world. On the other hand, you have poets like Robert Browning, who perfected a form called the dramatic monologue. In these poems, he would create a specific character often, a morally ambiguous one like a jealous duke or a corrupt bishop hand. Have them reveal their true nature through their own words. It's like a psychological case study in verse. His wife, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, was also a celebrated poet in her own right, famous for sonnets from the Portuguese, which beautifully chronicled the development of her love for Robert. As the century drew to a close, the mood began to shift. The confidence of the mid-Victorian era gave way to a sense of anxiety and decadence. This is the period of the aesthetic and decadent movements, summed up by the motto art for art's sake. Writers like Oscar Wilde challenged Victorian earnestness and morality with wit, style, and a celebration of beauty above all else. His novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, is a chilling exploration of a man who trades his soul for eternal youth and beauty, a story that questions the very surface-level values the Victorians held dear. The play, The Importance of Being Earnest, hilariously satirizes the trivialities and hypocrisy of high society. This late Victorian period also saw the rise of genre fiction that we still love today. Arthur Conan Doyle gave us the ultimate detective, Sherlock Holmes, a character who embodied the Victorian faith in logic, science, and observation to solve the mysteries of the modern city. Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde tapped into deep-seated fears about the duality of human nature and the dark side lurking beneath a respectable surface. H. pioneered science fiction, taking readers on incredible journeys in the time machine and the War of the Worlds, using these fantastic stories to comment on class division and imperialism. The Victorian Age was a whirlwind of progress and poverty, faith and doubt, strict rules and simmering rebellion. Its literature is the ultimate reflection of this complex time. It gave us unforgettable characters, gripping plots, and a powerful new way of looking at the world. The questions these writers asked about society, morality, and the human condition are still the questions we ask ourselves today. From the social crusades of Dickens to the psychological depth of Eliot and the rebellious wit of Wilde, the Victorians laid the groundwork for modern literature. They showed us that a story can be more than just an escape. It can be a force for change, a mirror to our souls, and a window into a world that, in many ways, is not so different from our own. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the 19th century. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of literature. See you next time.